this branch is going to go. So I'm going to be helping out my garden, getting a little bit more light in here while doing it. And I've already started by removing some of these other branches, so when I cut this, it doesn't knock my fence down. And I didn't want to spend $80 on a pole saw, so I took this bone saw here and duct taped it to some conduit. So it gives me like about 25-foot reach in there. So I was able to cut these branches all the way at the top here to clear these off. But I wanted to make sure while doing this, even though it seems destructive, that I make use of everything from this. And I'm going to try to restore this into a meadow area, because near this fence line here, it does get a lot of sun, and there's like all these grasses and flowers that come up. All the pollinators love it. And I came through here in the fall and I scattered hundreds, if not thousands, of milkweed seeds around here. So I'm hoping those are going to come up in the springtime. But the idea here is we're opening all this area up for regrowth. All these limbs here are going to get chopped. All these longer pieces are going to be kind of like my other borders I got set up here. They're under the snow now, but I use those as like a live edge that fills with fungus, and they're like in-ground planters. So from these branches, I'm going to get a lot of those. All the smaller pieces are getting burned. They are going to get given to the chickens. And some of these ashes are also going to get spread out in the ground here. One of the things that the conservation officers would do in Illinois is every single year they do a controlled burn on all their prairies. Now, I don't want to do a controlled burn here because that's kind of dangerous where I'm at. I can't get water out here. But the concept of throwing the ash on the ground should bring some fertility in that some of these meadow plants will like. And this larger branch here is going to get cut up. I'm going to get firewood from it. We're going to make some mushroom totem logs out of it that are going to go inside of the garden. And then possibly even some birdhouses made out of it, because I have dozens of birdhouses scattered out through here. The birds love it. So I feel like I'm going to do a pretty good job here of reusing everything and recycling it and giving it back to nature. I'm going to clear all this out. We're going to try to get this to just a nice smooth surface. And hopefully with all that south sun coming in, this is going to turn into a nice meadow area. So I'll probably plant some comfrey in here. I know my blackberries do really well in a similar area up front. I'm going to put some blackberries in here. Hopefully the milkweeds come up. We're going to plant a lot of stuff for the pollinators in here, probably some wildflowers. We have lots of blackcap raspberries that I mowed down last year. They're going to grow berries this year. And then the original homeowner decided to put this rose bush here. Now, I don't think I've ever seen this flower, but that's to be expected being under the shade of this giant oak tree here. And it's never really been pruned. So it's got a lot of dead canes that need to come out. I'm going to be cleaning this bush up. I'm going to keep it here because they took the time to put it here. And hopefully that extra sun that comes in, we'll be able to see what kind of flowers we get out of this. And if it's something nice, we can propagate this and move it other places throughout the yard. So let's get started with this cleanup and see what we can make happen. I'm going to start out by debranching some of these larger limbs to get them kind of like this. Because once they get in this shape here, they're going right into the garden. This southern facing slope will help these branches dry out a little bit quicker, so I could put them in the burn barrel. We could burn them down to ash. We've got this first cutting down to a lot of these smaller scraps here. I got some bigger ones I'm going to cut up. Look at all these nice logs I'm getting for the garden. I like how they have all these different shapes to them. I really don't like the straight pieces. I did a video before showing you some of my living borders. So these things get full of fungus. And instead of making raised garden beds, I kind of just use the sticks I have, whatever shapes they come in, and just build beds out of those. There aren't any straight lines in nature, so I think it's good when you're making beds like that, and you kind of just go with the flow and see what happens. Before I take this big guy down, I've been going through, cutting off some of the dead growth off the sides of this thing. Some of the random suckers I can reach with this pole with the saw tape to it. And check out some of these vines I got here. Like, look at this thing. This thing goes all the way up to the top of the canopy. I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's not poison ivy, or else I would not be touching it. Pull some of these guys down too. And just look at that. It's just never ending. This thing's probably about like 50, 60 foot long. Just choking the tree out. It's probably been like this for like the past 30, 40 years. We're starting to get pretty clean in here. I took out a lot of this brush that was laying on the ground, cut up some more of the bigger logs. I kind of got these areas here where brush kind of gets stacked, which is okay. It's a good hiding place for some of the native animals. But this area over here, it's a little hard to work in with these shrubs here, and they're shaded out anyway. They're not going to do too good. So I'm going to take these 3 plants out here to make this nice and smooth so I can get to work on these upper branches. This is the aftermath of all my work so far. The giant oak is looking pretty good. We got this cleared out really well in here. You can kind of see where the grass stops, and you had underneath the canopy here, and a lot of blood on my hand. Had a saw accident. This is exactly what I'm looking for here. With all this extra light coming in, it's gonna be a habitat for a lot of different plants that never lived here. We'll be reusing all this, like I said, burning it. And while I was doing this, it gave me time to think. I think a lot of this is going to make its way back into the woods like these other brush piles, because it's really important to have edges. All the best growth happens on edges. So I want to keep the forest area separate, and it might even give me a nice shady spot to grow some mushrooms. And I was also having second thoughts about this branch. Now that I got some of these higher ones out that were shading this area out, we got some suckers coming in down here that might get some more light now. So they might be a little more useful than the ones that used to be here. I don't know if I'm going to take this whole branch out. I might just leave it for the year and see what happens. And then look at all the timber I got for inside my garden. I can make a lot of garden beds with this. And some of this is still fresh wood. So I think I'm going to use some of this wood to try growing some mushrooms. Shiitakes or some lion's mane. We'll see. We'll do a little experimenting through here in my shady areas and see what happens. Then I got this real nice long guy here. I don't know if maybe I can cut this up, make some kind of trellis out of it, or leave it as a long border. I'm just going to think about it and see what I want to do with it. This is such a giant mess too. I really don't want to bring it all the way to the burn barrels. And I also noticed there's a lot of stuff that hibernates inside some of this dead wood. So I'm sure they'd appreciate not being burned alive. But yeah, we have a nice clearing here. Cleared out a lot of stuff, and I guess we'll see what happens in the springtime. See what kind of plants take over. See if we can get those milkweeds sprouted up. I know I got some real nice mature raspberries over there. This will give me room to walk in here and pick them. So make sure you subscribe and check back, and we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching.